name's Robyn. Welcome to my beautiful day Brusho online class. You qualified for this class by placing a retail order of $50 or more during the promotion for my I Heart stamping. So, if you did not order the products you needed to finish this class, I have a supply list in the class package where you could order the items if you'd like to make these cards along with us. If not, enjoy this bonus video and I hope you have a great day. So we'll go ahead and get started. These are the items that you'll need for this class. You'll need the Beautiful Day stamp set. You'll also need the Brusho crystal color. You'll need a heat tool, gold embossing powder, silver embossing powder, a Versamark pad, ink pad, stamp pad. I also am using the embossing buddy. If you don't have an embossing buddy, you can just use a dryer sheet. It's to help with static. I'm also using an aqua painter. If you do not have an aqua painter, you'll need a paintbrush and a little cup of water. We're going to be adding a lot of water onto our project. For your convenience and my convenience, I'm also using some paper towels and a background paper. This class, I'm going to film it in 2 different segments. The first segment will be embossing the project, or embossing the paper, and we'll also be using the Brusho. We'll need to set that aside and let it dry for a little while, and then we'll come back and we'll complete the cards. So let's go ahead and we will get going. This is the class packet you should have received in the mail from me, or if you have not yet, it should be on the way to you. ASAP. In this class, you'll also be using these metallic foil doilies. You received these in your bonus pack for placing a $50 order with me. If you're on my team, this was not included in your class package and you'll need to provide this yourself. Let's go ahead and open this up. This is your class materials packet. And this one will have a chipboard on the top as well as on the bottom. This just kept the paper safe as I was transporting it to your location. Okay, in the top of your pack, you will have 6 Whisper White envelopes, and you can stamp these up to match your card. You can leave them blank. These are for you to decide what you'd like to do with. I'm going to go ahead and start with our top one. All of these cards in this class today have a Whisper White thick base. And at the very bottom of the pack, underneath all of the cards, you will have our supply list. This has the sizes that I used for the cards. There'll be no text across the screen. If this is your first class with me, welcome. I do these a little bit different. These are a little more, I like these to flow a little bit better, so I usually don't edit much out of these videos. And then I've included the supply list for you to make it easier for you so you don't have to write down sizes and item codes if you'd like to place your order for any of the extra items on here. I'm going to set that aside. All right, so we will go ahead and put these into 2 piles. I'll show you what you need. Let's go ahead and cut our ribbon in half. We're going to use half of the ribbon on each card. And you should have, for this card, you'll have 2 of each of the items. You'll have 2 Peekaboo Peach cardstock, 2 Tangerine Tango, 2 thick Whisper White for the base, and then 2 for the front, and then 2 ribbon. I'm going to set one of them aside. I'll only be doing one. My recommendation for this class for you is to go ahead and do both of them at the same time, especially since we're doing them in steps, so you can complete the cards at the same time. So we're going to be starting, like I said, with the embossing. So let's set these pieces aside. and we're going to be embossing on the Peekaboo Peach as well as the Thick Whisper White. Now this Thick Whisper White, I'm going to tell you the measurements on this one. This is 3 1/4 by 3 1/2. So you want the 3 1/2 to go across. So this is going to be landscape, and it looks like it's the same size, but it's actually not. This helps you a little bit for that. This will fit on here like that. Okay. All right, so for this one, we're going to be using the flower for our embossing, and then we're using the Happy Birthday stamp. There's only 2 sentiments in this stamp set, so we're using this Happy Birthday on 2 cards, and we're using the other one on 1. So since we're embossing, we'll go ahead and start by using the embossing buddy. I'm going to just run this across the bottom of my Peekaboo Peach and then all over my Whisper White Thick. We're using the Versamark, and this one will have, let's see, this one is going to be using the gold. The other 2 cards are using silver, so this one is the only one that'll be using the gold embossing powder. I like to have my embossing powder out. This is just a little Tupperware container, a little plastic container I picked up at the dollar store, and I just have a lot of embossing powder in here. I've actually purchased 2 to 3 of each of the containers, so they fit in here and they'll last me forever. I have that in there. Okay, so I have that all out and ready to go. And for this one, we don't need to fold the paper in half, but the other one we may want to. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This one we're going to go ahead and ink up. And when I'm using the Versamark, sometimes I just like to tap it this way and kind of twist it, and I can make sure that I'm not getting it on the block or on this. We don't want any of this part to have the embossing powder, so we'll go ahead and stamp that on the bottom. Okay, now we're going to carefully and quickly, fairly quickly, put our powder over it. Okay, so now let's go ahead and emboss this using our heat tool. I'm going to put it on setting 2. I'll start away from me at an angle. And you see how that changes. I love embossing. It's one of my most favorite things to do, techniques to do for sure. It's just really gratifying to see it melting and changing the color. Now it's all shiny. So I'm going to set that aside. And now we're going to be embossing on this piece of white. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and fold a piece of background paper. You can also use computer paper. I want this class to be super easy for you to do and follow it through with me. If this is your first time embossing, I want you to have a really good experience. Or if this is, and this may be your first time with the Brusho. But let's start with the embossing. We're going to keep it super simple. I'm going to keep it super simple for you. We're using the flower on this one, and I'll go ahead and just carefully with my Versamark without rocking it. We don't want the Versamark on our block. See how I'm holding it? I'm just carefully holding. I'm twisting it a little bit. Make sure that didn't catch any edges. And now I'll go ahead and just stamp it on here like this in the center as best as possible. Now I will go ahead and I'm going to take my embossing powder, and I'm just going to, since this is it's a bigger spot, I'm going to go ahead and just do it right on the paper here. Okay. Let me set this aside just for a second, and then we'll put it back. I'll show you how I put it back in. I want to emboss this right away, especially because this is using the Versamark. The Versamark is a watermark pad. It's a little stickier. It is actually a lot stickier than our normal pad. But if you leave this on too long, it may dry, and then your embossing powder will just blow away in the wind. You want to get it while it's nice and sticky on there still. Okay, so that is the embossing we're doing on this one. Let me set that aside. I'm going to go ahead and complete the Brusho on this one as well. I'm going to try to do each one. And now if it helps you, if it makes it easier for you to do all the embossing at one time, then you should do all of the embossing at one time. Okay, so that's all of the gold. So I can go ahead and put away my gold embossing powder. And I'm going to put away my, make sure you don't have any powder on your paper. I'm going to go ahead and put away my Versamark just for a second. And I could even clean off those stamps if I want to. We will not be using this one again, but we are using the sentiment again. So don't clean that one off yet. All right. Now it's time to have fun with our Brusho. And we're going to be using this little background right here. And just be prepared. Get a paper towel out, have it ready. We can do this. You know, I don't like working with a lot of messy techniques, but this one is not too bad, and I'm going to show you how to do it in a controlled environment so you can have great success as well. Okay, so I just have this out. So I will be using the Brusho on this one. I'm using the green. I'm going to be using the yellow and the orange. The other ones I can set aside. Now, if you have not opened these yet, do not just open them. You'll need either a push pin, like a thumbtack kind of a thing, you know, the push pins for the bulletin board. I just used a paper piercer. Do not open them. If you have, then it's okay. But if you can help it, don't open them how they have it here because it will just get everywhere. So Brusho does get everywhere if you're not careful. So just, I'm going to show you how to do this, like I said, in a controlled environment. So I have these poked through the different colors I'm going to use. I also have ready, now make sure your heat gun is far away. It is as far away as possible as you can. Now for this one, I'm going to set this little stamp aside for now. We're going to go ahead and start by, I'm just going to add a little bit of water onto here. I'm just dripping this on here on my paper. Okay, I just have a little bit, and then I'm going to use my paper towel. I don't know if you can see. Let me zoom out a little bit. My paper towel, I'm just going to kind of use that. And now, let me set this aside. I'm going to go ahead, and I only want a tiny, tiny bit of green right here. Just put a tiny bit of green. And if you want to, use your brush. Just kind of have it be a little dry. I'm just going to kind of have that in here. And then we're going to blow off the other Brusho that we don't use. So I just did a little of that up there. I'm going to add a little bit of orange over here. Just kind of tap it with your finger. You really can't see it very well, but it is on there. And I'm going to add just the yellow as well on here. I just kind of want this on my flower area. Now again, if you have just a regular brush, you can just use the brush. You see how it just kind of watercolors. I'm trying to keep this as much contained as possible inside the flower for this one, just because we're going to be doing something on the outside in a minute. Do you see that, how it kind of, now the orange is over here. I can keep cleaning this off if I want to. Just kind of pull it. You can add a little more orange if you want it on there. Okay, now what I'm going to do is just kind of, if you want to just shake it off, you can. Blow it off. So I don't have any of the excess around. So there's my flower for now. Now I'm going to take these off here. That wasn't too bad, was it? And you can add a little more orange. I'll show you my other sample. It has a little more orange, and they're all going to look a little different. So what I'm going to do is just kind of clean this off. I just want to make sure that I don't have any powder that's extra. Very organized. You see how I'm doing that? Let's pull our flower paper back on. And now we're going to do something a little bit fun. It's a little messy, but it's a little fun. We're going to take our stamp, and I'm going to go ahead and just add water onto this. Make sure my brush is clean. I'm just going to add a little bit of water onto my stamp, just like that. Perfect. Now I'm going to take directly, I'm just going to put my powder directly onto my stamp. Now what I'm going to do now is just stamp this on here. It's just going to give it a little bit of a colory kind of a background. I think it's really pretty. Same thing, just add a little more water. Add as much or as little as you want. I think I added a little too much. So I'm gonna add a little more water on here. You'll want to clean off your stamp after. Maybe run it, take it to the sink after this. Okay, it's really pretty. Look at that. All right, now we can set this aside and this is going to dry. Let's move on to our next project. All right, we are on to card 2. For this card, we're going to go ahead and grab the second card set on the stack, which is the red and the white. We will go ahead and separate these into 2 piles. This one you will also have 2 of each. And this Whisper White thick cardstock is the same on both sides, so you don't need to worry about finding which side is the correct side. And for this one, for the embossing, we're just going to be using this one right here. We can set the other piece aside. All right, I have my silver embossing powder. Have that ready to go. I'm using the butterfly, and then I'm using the sentiment that says always thinking of you, and the Versamark. We'll go ahead and either with your embossing buddy or a dryer sheet, I'm going to just swipe that across to help with the static. Now this one, we're going to go ahead and stamp fairly quickly. You can do these in 2 steps. You can do either the butterfly first and then the always thinking of you, but I'm going to go ahead and do both at the same time. So just stamp up, ink up your, I'm going to ink up the butterfly and have it ready to go up at the top of this. And then I am going to have the sentiment right here. Now I will go ahead and take my silver embossing powder, sprinkle it across my whole piece of paper. Now I have my butterfly and always thinking of you. Set aside your embossing powder and you can put it away when you're done embossing. Let's go ahead and do our embossing now. I'm going to always aim the heat tool away from me. Usually I do about half of it, and then I'll flip it around and I'll do the other half. Especially if it's a piece where it's very close to your fingertips. You do not want to burn your fingertips. This is very hot. So I have my butterfly almost embossed. Up a little bit on my own. There we go. It's fine. It's going to look well loved here. And I'm going to flip it around and I'm going to do the always thinking of you. But again, if you want to do this in 2 steps, you can. You can start with the butterfly and then let it cool down. Put another swipe of your embossing buddy or your dryer sheet. And then you can do the always thinking of you if that was a little too fast to do all at once. So I'll go ahead and put away my silver embossing powder. Set that aside. And now I'm going to get everything out that I need for what we're doing next. Now I'll also have a piece, I always have a piece of my paper towel. We're just using the orange Brusho and we're using the red Brusho. Now we're going to do a watercolor technique here where we're really just going to be watercoloring. And we will start, and we'll need either your watercolor paintbrush and water, or you can drop just some water from your aqua painter on here. So I'm going to start with the orange. I might have added a little too much water, so I'm just going to tap this on here, and you get this to the color that works for you. Okay? It might be, you might want it really dark orange, or you might want it a lighter orange. That's really up to you. Okay, that looks like a good shade to me. Now I'm going to go ahead and just color in the lines. I'm going to start here. Kind of looks like a yellowy orange, so I could add more if I wanted to make it darker. Just going to add these here. And I'm not going to speed this up because I want you to see I'm fully doing this. Now, you can actually pat dry with a paper towel, but it will absorb a lot of the liquid, and so you'll lose a lot of the color as well. So I'm just going to let it air dry. All right, which other ones am I doing? This one here. And when you do the embossing, it gives it a kind of a barrier, so the color stays in. All right, so that is the orangey yellow. I made it look more yellow on this one. Okay. Now I'm going to clean this off because I want to use red next. Just really clean it off because it probably got all over. You can also just do this on a plate if you don't have a block this big. I just like using my blocks. All right. Now I'm going to do the red. I'm only going to drop a few things of the water. I want the red to really show up and be bright and match my cardstock. So I'm really gonna, and that looks like it will. I can even make it a little bit more if I want it. All right. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and fill in the rest of the spots. Ooh, it's pretty. Ooh, it's really pretty. We'll do the rest with, oops, I got a little bit of the red over there, but that's okay. So I'll just make it look like I meant to do that. I'll make it look like it's part of it. So I'm gonna do that on both sides. If you make a mistake, as long as you're consistent about your mistakes, nobody will even know. All right. And then just really take your time with this. And then we'll set it all aside and let it dry. Isn't that pretty red? I love it. I just think it's gorgeous. Absolutely beautiful. Hope you all are staying warm today. We had a lot of snow over the weekend here in Utah. It's almost springtime. I'm ready for it to be warm and sunny. All right. Okay, so now I'm going to set that aside and let it dry, and then I will come back and we'll finish the whole card on this one in just a minute. Let's go on to our last project. Let's move on to our final project, and that one is using the Dapper Denim and the silver. Just really a beautiful card, a gorgeous card. Now on this one, at the very bottom, underneath the Whisper White Thick, you will have 1/2 sheet, or this is actually a full sheet of the watercolor paper. And we're going to go ahead and you can cut this in half. We're going to use one, or you can just keep it if you want to do them both at the same time. I'm going to cut mine in half. So I have one for one project and one for the other card. And then you will have 2 of each of these pieces. I'm going to set this aside for a second. You'll have 2 of each of these. And let's do our embossing first. So this one's going to be fun because we are embossing on the watercolor paper, and we're also going to be embossing on the strip of paper. So these are the two pieces that you'll need for the embossing portion. I have my Versamark, my silver embossing powder. I'm using the butterfly and the happy birthday sentiment, and then we'll be using the blue Brusho, and it's called Prussian blue. I think I'm saying that right, hopefully. All right, so let me set these aside. So I'm going to go ahead, and we want to stamp the butterfly on the middle of this just because we're going to kind of make a mess. This one's kind of a messy, fun one. Let's go ahead and use our embossing buddy on both of the papers. Okay, and now we'll start with the happy birthday sentiment, and we're going to do the strip first. We'll set that aside for just a second. This one we can do right over the top of this. So we're going to ink this up. I'm going to stamp it off to the right of this 1-inch strip. Hopefully there we go. Good enough. I could not see very well from my angle. Okay. And now I'm going to go ahead and emboss this. And then after I'm done embossing, oops, you see how I got that edge there? I can go ahead and while it's still not embossed, I can just wipe it off. All right, now we have the strip with the sentiment. I'm going to set that on my pile. And then over here, I'm going to go ahead and set this aside. I'm going to use the strip or the paper that I've been using for my embossing. We'll go ahead and put our butterfly in the center of this. Have your silver ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and just put that on here in the middle. And then I will take my powder. I'll do the same thing, just do the whole thing. Tap it really good. Set this aside, and you will have some missing spots, but that's okay because this is how it embosses and picks up on the watercolor paper. Let's go ahead and emboss the butterfly. All right, almost done here. Okay, I have my embossed butterfly, and now I can set that aside for just a second. I'm going to clean up this embossing powder, and then we will go ahead and get started right away with the blue. Okay, so now get your water ready or your aqua painter, and we're doing the last little bit here. This one is going to be a little messy maybe, so I'm going to show you how to keep it under control so it's not super messy. So I just have it on the pad of paper. I'm going to go ahead and have, again, some of this ready. This one we're going to go ahead and get it pretty wet. So I'm just going to drop this on, or if you have water, ooh, and it's a little pink still from before. That's okay. I tried to clean it off the best I could. Sometimes it's still in there. I got the red in there really, really good. That's okay. All right, doesn't matter. Once that blue's on there, you're not even gonna tell. Okay, so let me get the water on here. I'm just gonna really get this all wet and watery. Go outside of it, just get it really wet. Okay, so it's very wet. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to take our blue and go ahead and just tap it on there. Do you see what it's doing? So I want it to be darker, more in the center, so I'm going to do a lot kind of in the center. And then I'm just going to lightly tap it, the 4 areas. Now, what I'm going to do is just take my aqua painter and I'm just going to lightly, so it's going to just kind of be, it looks really dark, doesn't it? I might add a little too much. That's okay. I'm going to add more water. I'm going to make a full-on mess here, guys. I want it to be really kind of dark in the center, and I don't want it to be as dark. So that's okay. That's why we're using this tissue paper. Have that ready. See, it's not too bad. Now with the other sides, I'm going to also, I just didn't want it to be as dark. Just kind of water it up. And then this one we are going to take our tissue paper. This is the messiest one. So we made it this far, you guys, without making a huge mess. I know some of you were concerned. I'm just going to pat this now. So I'm just going to pat it. And you kind of have just a different, everyone will have a different design, okay? If you want a little more darker, you can just even add more after this. It's totally up to you. That's what I want mine to look like. I'm gonna go ahead and clean up my mess. There's my mess, all cleaned up. So if you do it like that, then you're all set. Okay, so we're going to set all of these papers aside. You can help heat the drying process with a heat tool. I'm just gonna let mine set for maybe an hour, and I'm gonna come back and do the second portion of this video. You'll see it all at once, but you guys set yours aside and then come back, and we'll be back in just a little bit. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and finish up these 3 cards or 6 cards. We'll start with this one here. Now this butterfly, if you've given it time to dry, we're going to just cut around. I'm gonna do this off camera, but I'm gonna kind of give you an idea. I'm just cutting around, and this is just going to be the image of the butterfly. So grab some sharp scissors and be very careful, and then cut out your butterfly, and then we'll finish up this card. I have my butterfly all cut out and ready to go. We're going to need a paper trimmer or something to score your paper with. All of the 6 cards are using the Whisper White Thick. So I'm going to go ahead and score them at 4 1/4. And I'm going to score the 3 that I have out right now, just to save time so I don't have to pull it out every time. All right, we've never done this before in a class where we actually finish all the cards at the same time. So this is going to be interesting. It's going to seem like I made them a lot quicker, but this was a more time-consuming technique class. All right, so let's go ahead and fold over this piece of our Whisper White cardstock. And I'm using snail adhesive. And I'm going to put it on the back of my Dapper Denim. Add that right here. Now I'm going to take this embossed silver foil sheet. The name of the embossing folder is on the supply list. And we're putting adhesive on all 4 sides. Now we're taking this strip of our emboss. I'm putting a lot of adhesive on that, aren't I? I'm going to have this on the bottom with just about 1/4 of an inch of the silver showing. Now I'm just going to simply take a dimensional, put it on the back of my butterfly, and let my butterfly shine right there. And I can even bring the wings up a little bit. Here's the other one that I made with this butterfly. So there's card number 1 finished. We'll set this aside. Now let's take this card here, and I'm going to go ahead and fold over my Whisper White Thick. And I will add my embossed background. Like so. Now we're going to be using some of these foil pieces. You can just use one of the silver And we're going to just cut that in half. Doesn't have to be exactly perfect. So I'm going to cut this in half. It's really a thin piece, and you can use it on the other side as well if you like the design, and you can ink this up with a stamping sponge as well. So I'm going to turn this over, and I'm going to add adhesive just to the back of both sides. And now I can line this up how I want it. It can be a little bit off. I want one of these points to go down. So I'm just going to do this. Do you see how on the back it's crooked? But it doesn't matter on the front. And on this side, I'm going to do the same thing. I want one of the points to go down like this. Whoops, that's a little crooked actually. Ah, I want that in the middle still. Okay, right like that. And now what we can do is, if you have our foam adhesive strips, these are great for that. If not, you can just use dimensionals. I'm going to cut some of these on this. All right. Ignore the voices in the background. Some of my kids just got home from school and I can hear them in the kitchen. It's a good thing that I'm almost done here. Okay. I'll line this up a little bit better here. Might have made him a little bit too long or just perfect. Okay, so I'm going to do four of these strips on the back, and now I'm going to go ahead and just pull the backs off, or again, if you're using dimensionals, just pull the backs off of your dimensionals. And we will add this right here. Fits perfectly. And then we're going to take these gems. You'll have enough for 3 for each, and you can put these anywhere you want. You can have them on the ends of these. I'm just going to have them kind of random up here and over here. Whoops, I don't know where that one went. It's really random because it came off my page. Oh, there it is. All right. Doesn't want to go. It doesn't want to work. All right. I'm going to get that, I promise. I'm going to get it. There we go. I'm going to have this one on here. And then my last one will just be over here. So we have card number 2 finished. And then this one I wanted to show you that I did the orange a little bit darker on the top one over here on the left. So it's up to you on that one. And our last one, we're going to go ahead and fold this over as well. Fold it over, and we can start with the bottom. We do have ribbon on this one, but we're adding it on the top, so we're good. Add this on here. And I'm going to layer this really nicely. Now this is still going to be a little bit wiggly, so just put a lot of adhesive on the back. You can even use Fast Fuse. Fast Fuse is nice and very sticky. Okay. So I'm going to do that like this. Really get it down. Mine might still just be a little bit wet. Okay, now we can use the same thing. We can use the strips if we want on this, because it's a bigger piece and it's just easier. Let me see which way. This way, right? Yeah. Put these on the back. I'm just going to do 3 on this one. Okay, let's add this on here. This is going to go up here to the top. Mine I might have let dry a little bit longer, but I wanted to finish this video for you. Now I'm just going to simply just do a little bow. So I just put my finger in there and I wrapped it around like this. I just wrap it over. Now I take my finger out. I just wrap it around and then I just tuck it through like this. And then this is the trick. You kind of hold it all at the same time while you're pulling. Now while you're holding the middle, you can pull these little pieces out and you can pull them tight again, until you get the perfect piece that you want. The perfect ribbon. This one actually looks really good. I'm impressed. I normally don't have the best ribbon cutting skills. And then I'm just going to cut these pieces at an angle. And I will take a glue dot, if I can find my glue dot somewhere hidden in my scrap area, craft area pile. I'm going to take a glue dot, put it on the center of this, and I'm just going to add it right here. Now here's the other one I made. Now this one I add a little more orange to it, so it's really up to you on how you want to do it, and it's going to look different every time when you're using the Brusho. So here are all of the cards we made in this class, and if you didn't order what you needed, you can still order any of these items from my website, and then you can do the projects along with us. I hope you have a wonderful day. I will see you soon. Bye-bye.